Okay, now in this section, we're not talking about means anymore. We're talking about proportions. And remember, a proportion is just a percentage of a population that meets a certain criteria. So they use a little bit different notation for a sample proportion. They put that little hat over it. We say that's p hat. So you would take how many met a certain criteria over the sample size to figure out what percentage of that sample met a certain criteria. You would just take how many, say you're saying how many people drive red cars out of 200 people that you asked. You would put how many people drove red cars divided by how many people that you asked. And that would give you this proportion of that sample that drove red cars. Okay? So that's what a sample proportion is. To find the margin of error for it, we have to go back to our z alpha over 2 times the square root of p hat times q hat. What the heck is q hat? It's the same as q. Q hat is 1 minus p hat. So if p hat's 0.3, q hat's 1 minus 0.3 would be 0.7, right? And then just like before, our intervals are just the sample proportion minus that margin of error, the sample proportion plus that margin of error. So the p with the null hat is the true population proportion. The p hat represents the sample, the hat, okay? All right, so here we have an example. We have n is 280, sample size is 280. They gave us our sample proportion is 0.3. They want us to construct a 99% confidence interval for this situation. Okay, so first thing we got to do is we know to get that confidence interval, we have to have p hat minus e, p hat plus e. We already know p hat, we're good there, but we don't know e. So here's the formula for e. I think the only thing we really don't know there is that z alpha over 2. So we got to figure out z alpha over 2 for 99% confidence level. So remember how we do that, guys? We've been doing this a long time. So remember that the z alphas over 2 are like the cutoff values. We're saying 99%, so 0.99 is in between the two. So what's left over? 0.01 is left over to divide between the two halves. So 0.01 divided by 2 is 0.005. So remember what you do. You take your z table, and the easy way is to go to the negative z side, and you're looking for 0.005 in the body. And actually it's a special one. If you look way down the bottom, you see 0.005. It corresponds to a z of negative 2.575. It's way down the bottom. So from that table, our z alpha over 2 is 2.575. Okay, now it's just simply a matter of plugging in. So how do we get e? It's that 2.575 times the square root of p hat. P hat is 0.3. What's q hat? Q hat's 1 minus p hat. 1 minus 0.3 is 0.7 over n, which is 280. So you got to take your calculator out and figure out what that e is. And I got 0.0705. Okay, so 0.0705. So now it's just plug into the interval. So p hat is 0.3. So it's 0.3 minus 0.0705. 0.3 plus 0.0705. So I think they asked you to round it to 3. I got 0.229 and 0.371. Oops. Okay, so the key here is to know what a proportion is, to figure out what q hat is by doing 1 minus p hat, given the certain confidence level, to figure out the z alpha over 2, which we've done in other past sections, and we just did a review on that. And then to plug in for the e, and then do the p hat minus e, p hat plus e. And also a lot of steps, but it's not too bad once you get into the swing of it. So I hope that helps, and let me know if you have any issues.